All right. The first question I have, I mean, just basically is how has junior hockey and or amateur hockey impacted Baldwin ice hockey in terms of like the players that have potentially gone over to play or, two people on or a person on two different teams? How has those leagues impacted Baldwin ice hockey?
Um, I think it depends on the specific team and the specific level that players are playing at, or what teams they're playing on. Because I think some of the teams are the competition is better than high school hockey, and then there's other teams where maybe that's not the case. So it depends on that, and also um, it's a lot too for like time commitment for kids to take in between, and sometimes depending on the individual player, you have people who are getting confused as to the we're running this system on this team and there's another system on our high school team. So sometimes there's confusion and they forget. um, I mean, and if they're playing at a higher level, I think it's advantageous for them to do that, to try to get better, um, and helpful. But it just people need to look at the competition level of amateur and junior teams, when they're deciding to do that, because as I think more people play amateur and high school hockey than one or the other. It's most people, it seems like these days, are playing two teams. And there's also the conflicts of practice times. We always have had a lot of kids that have to miss practice due to their other team. Um, and again, I think they should try to figure out the competition level on, their high school team or their amateur team, when deciding which practice to go to and which one would be better for them.
Yeah, and then I know like in the past for, specifically Baldwin, I mean, Jason Gavolik, and then like I know when you became coach, Lucas Kirk was there and then he left. What was it like? What is it like trying to keep players from going to some of those bigger, especially when you want them on your team?
Well, for me personally, I I wouldn't say, I'm not always trying to keep people. I mean, ideally, yes, I want the best players on the high school team, but from an individual level, if somebody has a great opportunity individually to go play for another team, I'm all for that and recommend that. Uh, some of the people that have played, I don't think it was the greatest move for them to leave. I don't think you should leave unless there's a path for that player going forward, that they can see by going to play, like Lucas and Jason did. Like if they can't see the path, or I can't see the path of it being helpful to them in their hockey career, then I wouldn't suggest that they'd go. For those two in particular, I didn't suggest that I wanted them to go and play on those teams. Um, I've had other people, like Eddie Nowicki, our goalie this year, has like a prep school offer in Indiana. And although he's a junior and I'd have him back next year, I told him that I want him to go play there if that's what he wants to do, because the school's had a ton of junior A players, a ton of Division I players, and even a handful of NHL players come out of that school, and they play a great competition, and great teams. And I'm sure you've heard of like Shattuck St. Mary's in Minnesota, like they're in a league with them as well. So although I really would love for Eddie to come back and play for us next year, for him as an individual, it would be such a great opportunity for him to go there. So in that regard, I am on board, and for his own development and hockey career, told him, if that's what he wants to do, I think he should do it. So, like I've said before, I want people to develop as hockey players and people, and he is a great opportunity and he's very talented. So I don't want to hold him back and would, I want him to go there if that's what he wants to do.
Now, if you were able to keep some of those players like Jason or Lucas, how much more could that have improved your team just in general for any team if they're able to keep, some of these guys that go to juniors and play elsewhere? How much more does that improve your team if you get to keep some of those skilled players?
I think it would improve, we would have had Jason last season. And I think it would have improved our team a lot to have him, or both those guys. They're both very talented players. But again, you have to sort of look at it from where, what team they're going to play on. And I think it would have been more beneficial for both of them to stay at Baldwin or to, try to play for an amateur team or team that wouldn't take them away from high school hockey. But they're both talented players. So obviously it would have helped our team a lot if both of them would have stayed and played with Baldwin and finished out at Baldwin.
And then just looking at the landscape of high school sports in general, in this project, we're going to be talking a little bit about high school basketball with AAU and stuff and how they impact each other. What makes high school hockey different from other high school sports in your opinion?
I think the biggest thing, and I know I'm not completely familiar with like basketball, but I know from say like a football perspective, a lot of kids can go play football, especially around Western Pennsylvania. They can just go to the high school that if you grow up in a municipality or township, like say Baldwin, you can go to Baldwin High School and play football. And if you're good enough, a Division I school is probably going to see you and you can probably get a scholarship. And with high school hockey, that's not really the case in Pittsburgh. So if kids want to play junior A or they want to play Division I hockey, they need to play on these amateur teams or these junior teams in order to sort of increase the opportunities they may have to play at a higher level. So it's sort of unfair, I guess you could say, but that's sort of how the system works in terms of how if you want to play at a higher level, like the best of the best, like Division I hockey, you sort of need to leave high school hockey and play for these amateur teams or these junior teams, but they also have to be good amateur teams and junior teams in order to try to get to say a Division I level, and that's different. If you play high school hockey in Minnesota, that's basically king. You don't have to play. They don't have like amateur teams up there. All the kids do are play high school, and a lot of them get Division I offers up there because the competition is so good. In Pittsburgh, it's just different, and there's a different path that people have to take and have to sort of leave home before they graduate high school if they're good enough and want an opportunity to play at a Division I level. But I think high school hockey, it's tough to decide because I think a lot of kids enjoy high school hockey because that's where most of the fans come and you have your other classmates interested and come and watch you play. And I think it's a little bit more fun than playing the amateur stuff because they don't get as many fans. And you have to travel and sacrifice social life and all that stuff. So, it's tougher around here because it just depends on how you're respected. Your hockey play is respected around the country. And, a scout's going to go to Minnesota pretty much over Pittsburgh from a general, competition standpoint when looking at players.
Now, when you were in high school, you played Bethel, right? You played for Bethel.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of juniors and amateurs during that time?
Not as many as there are today. So when I played at Bethel, I also played for the Pittsburgh Hornets. And we played in a league called the Michigan National League, where due to the, not having the respect of the hockey community, we had to travel to Detroit, Michigan, and Canada and Chicago almost every weekend in order to play. Because those teams, I'm sure you've heard of like Honey Baked Ham, or some of the really good amateur programs out there. They wouldn't come to Pittsburgh to play us. So we had to sort of go there. And after about 3 years, we finally started competing with them, and gained their respect. And then they would travel to Pittsburgh and play us in away games. But at that time, there was the Pittsburgh Hornets, the Amateur Penguins, and I think one other sort of AAA amateur travel team that existed at the time. So it was a lot less than there are today. And I think that's sort of there's so many today that, it sort of waters down the caliber of play per team, instead of having, all the best players on one team in Pittsburgh. It's spread out more between all the AAA travel teams that there are out there today.
And then sort of going into my last question, I mean, with the growth of NCAA hockey, do you think there's like the potential from how it is for basketball and football, that there's the potential for players to go right from high school into NCAA, or do you think it'll always be the junior hockey path into NCAA hockey and then potentially into the NHL?
From like a country standpoint, or just from sort of, from Pittsburgh?
Nationally, I mean, because like I said, I mean, you see it in high school basketball, players go to the NCAA level right away, but in hockey, it's not like that. There's more of that junior connector and in between. Do you think there's a potential just in the future for that to change?
I don't see it really at this time. I think it's going to stay the same because, again, take sort of Minnesota out of the picture. They have enough hockey talent in Minnesota, high talent, that they don't really need to travel to play the best competition in the country. If you're going to play just high school hockey in Pittsburgh, unfortunately, from a talent perspective, you have a handful of really talented kids on each team. And so Pittsburgh needs to gather all talent together, and so do a lot of other places around the country. And that's where you get these travel amateur teams that kids have to play. And then they travel to play the best competition all around the country. And that's what, I think Division I scouts or NCAA people want to see, the best of the best playing against one another. And currently, the caliber of play, just from a high school standpoint around the country, isn't high enough to sort of garner their interest to come and watch kids. So they'd rather go see these amateur AAA travel teams go play one another in showcases that they have around the country. And that's just how I see it for the time being into the future. Because they can see as many good players in one spot or one arena at one time, rather than traveling all over the place to different places. So to answer your question, no, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. I wish it would, but it just needs, the caliber of play needs to grow dramatically for that to change.
All right, that's basically all I have. I mean, if you want to add anything else about how maybe junior hockey or amateur hockey impacts high school, feel free to do so.
Well, I think, I'm glad that the kids that play amateur or junior hockey want to play high school hockey. Especially around here, I think it keeps getting better, and there's tradition, and those kids are, a lot of them are the the best players on their teams from all the high schools around this area. And you know, every kid that you know gets an offer Division I or plays junior A at a good team, you know, it sort of catches the attention of people around the area of, you know, if they can do it, I can do it. So I do think the amateur teams and junior teams, it's good for people to see that and good for kids to play. Because as I said earlier, it is the path right now that kids need to take. But you know, as I said before, the high school hockey is, you know, super fun for people to be a part of and competitive and where everybody sort of takes interest around here. And gets a lot of attention for people. So, you know, there's pros and cons to both, but you know, I think doing both is positive. And that's why sort of as a, you know, coach in high school that I've supported both of it, you know, since I've been coaching at Baldwin.
All right, that's all I have. So thank you for spending some time. Let me go ahead and, where's the stop recording button? There we go.